I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So our orders get all backed up. We're drowning in paperwork, then actually drowning. Carol is fighting off sharks with a stapler, and pirates are pillaging the office copier, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant goes beyond the resume, using unique insights to deliver a smarter shortlist. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
New Year, same extra value meals at McDonald's. So now get 2 snack wraps, plus fries, and a medium soft drink for just $8.
For limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Hawaii, Alaska, and California, and for delivery.
Oh, it's such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Visit Blinds.com now for up to 45% off with minimum purchase plus a free professional measure. Rules and restrictions apply.
Hello and welcome to The Price of Football, the show that looks at the money behind the beautiful game of me, Kevin Day at Liverpool University's Kieran Maguire. Kieran, the reason I'm chuckling is not only because your countdown was very funny as usual, but I've just realised I actually get counted down on screen. Where I place my script over half your office, it was slightly different, and it says 3, 2, 1, go on screen. So all this time, you've been making me laugh for no apparent reason at all. But that explains your role in life, Kieran, to make me laugh for no apparent reason at all. We should admit that we are recording this a day early, Kieran. We're recording this on Tuesday for their logistical reasons.
Brighton are playing at City on Wednesday. Let's be perfectly clear.
And I've got a hospital appointment. So I think our listeners have rumbled the fact that when I say logistical reasons, it's quite often not as exciting as it's Newsday, Kieran, and luckily, I can't remember who it was who said very cannily that it's amazing how the news spreads just enough to fill newspapers every day. But we've got plenty of news to fill a pod. And we'll start. We said on Tuesday's questions pod we'll put a bit more meat on the Man United story. But first, Kieran, I want you to answer a question that you set to me first, which I'm still not entirely. And it's on a similar vein. Five clubs. Only 5 clubs in the Premier League have ever sacked a manager who won 2 competitions in the previous seasons. Kieran, can you name those 5 clubs?
I can name those 5 managers who are Jose Mourinho, Roberto Di Matteo, Carlo Ancelotti, Jose Mourinho again, and Enzo Maresca. And the 5 football clubs are Chelsea, 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 Chelsea. Perhaps that explains that rather turgid chant that Chelsea fans make when they're at matches. Chelsea, 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 Chelsea. And you go, that's sort of a bit lacking in imagination, but I think it's a fascinating insight into the culture of the club, and admittedly 4 of those decisions were made by Roman Abramovich as Chelsea became his personal toy, and his like many children, when they get a new toy, they're all over it for a few days and then lose interest. Well, this appeared to be the case with Abramovich and a series of managers. Yes, they were given fantastic budgets, but they still had to turn those budgets into success, and they did. And then he would get rid of them a few months into the following season if that success wasn't being maintained. And now the world champions, the November manager of the month. And I put this out on social media, and a few Chelsea fans get a bit narky. So, Maresca resigned. So, I've read the press release. It doesn't say he's resigned. It just says he's gone. It's sort of, I think there's a push and a pull in that particular relationship.
Well, he's resigned in that he's walked into the office and there's been a piece of paper and a pen. I'm saying sign this. But perhaps Chelsea fans can change that song as well to one manager went to sign on because they won't be far short of 10.
Yes, right.
And that brings us back to a story that's overshadowed the Chelsea story, which, of course, Amorim. We're discovering it because you're telling us how much Man United have spent on management payoffs since 2013. But also, I think people are starting to ask a very valid question: is Ineos have been in charge of Man United for a lot longer than Amorim has. So when does it become a failure of the football club manager, and when does it become a failure of the football club management?
I think you raise a very valid point. Getting rid of a manager takes the heat off the people at the top, and there does appear to be huge inconsistencies under the Ineos approach. Now, let me be perfectly honest. I'm not a huge fan of Ineos in terms of the way that they ran Grangemouth. I know there, but you set that aside. They do have some experience with running sports organisations, not particularly successfully. So let's just sort of take our way through this. But first of all, in terms of the cost, it's 88 to 90 million pounds on payoffs, and on top of that, in the case of Ruben Amorim, I think they paid, was it Porto? They paid them about 10 million pounds to release him from his contract, and then 14 months later they dismiss him, and it's going to cost them another 10 million. In the case of Dan Ashworth, they were trying to negotiate a release fee when Dan Ashworth was at Newcastle United. I think eventually they ended up paying around about £3 or £4 million to Newcastle, and 6 months later they got rid of him. Again, clash of personalities.
Yeah.
If you are recruiting people, why don't you check out their personalities before you recruit them? This just appears to be sort of the basics of doing due diligence in terms of recruitment, and that seems to be lacking. So he came and he went, and in that intervening period, Manchester United spent the thick end of £250 million. We saw Manchester United in the summer of 2025 spend another £200 million because Amorim wanted a particular style of football, and he wanted more money to spend in January. There's clearly a breakdown of his relationship with Jason Wilcox. But as you say, Manchester United senior hierarchy have to take some responsibility for this. Yeah. They've got rid of the chief executive and replaced him with somebody else. Patrick Stewart has gone, and I'm not sure who's been replaced there. It does seem to be a club which has no direction. And one of the things that Jim Ratcliffe said when he came in is that we're going to be different. We've got a long-term strategy. Well, their long-term strategy appears to be to have no long-term strategy, to just be another reactive football club rather than a proactive football club. I don't know what the Manchester, but this isn't a football show. I don't know what the Manchester United style of football is, and neither do Manchester United fans. And that does seem strange. But if you why did we get to this figure, £88 million? It's around about that. Well, we've got Sir Alex Ferguson himself. When he departed, there was a £2.5 million payoff. That's not necessarily to Sir Alex. I think he retired. He might have been included in that. Yeah. All of his support staff, his goalkeeping coach and so on. David Moyes came and went, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Anigola Solskjaer, Ralph Rangnick, Eric Ten Hag, now Amorim, and also we've had Ryan Giggs and Michael Carrick. That 88 million, it could be for changing names in the car park, because it's going to be pretty pricey. Can you imagine if that's your job? I mean, that must be one of the most secure jobs at Old Trafford. And let's face it, it's a place which doesn't have a lot of security.
That's very funny. So who do you get to guarantee your mortgage? I'll tell you what, the bloke who paints the manager's names in the car park, he's never going to be out of a job.
Right.
Dan Ashworth, I'm not the only one to point this out. Dan Ashworth waited longer to take the job than he was actually in the job. He was on gardening leave for 5 months and left the job after slightly less than 5 months. You mentioned the fans, Kieran. The other problem for Ineos here, for Sir Jim, is that it's much harder to sell the redundancies, the ticket price increases, when the club's not doing well off the pitch. And when you've seen Ratcliffe in a podcast around about October saying, no, we'll give Amorim 3 years. That's the minimum it takes for a manager to settle in, to decide his style. Although it now seems that perhaps it's Wilcox and Ashworth who are Ratcliffe who are deciding the style. But it makes managing the whole club harder in terms of fans' expectations when. And to be fair, they're not doing. They're all right. They're in a
Doing all right.
Champions League qualification place. That's
Yeah.
all right. They haven't really been pulling up a huge amount of trees in terms of the Ferguson years recently. So you wouldn't look at the league table and go, well, that's a team in some distress, would you?
No. I mean, I do think it's been a very mediocre Premier League this season. As somebody who's attended a lot of matches, but Manchester United, they've won more than they've lost, just about. So, as you say, that they are fifth. Trying to work out what's going on is bizarre. You hear stories such as Ratcliffe will summon the chief executive to a meeting when he's fly fishing.
Yeah,
because and you go, well, that's just sort of if you go and show off how wealthy you are, Jim, and that you like to go fly fishing in Norway or somewhere daft like that, then fine. But you are running an organisation which, for many Mancunians, for many people elsewhere in the country, for many people from many countries, is a huge element to their life.
Yeah,
and trying to work out what his game plan is bizarre.
Yeah. We've got a run of stories, Kieran, about potential new owners or actual new owners of clubs at various different levels. Experience has taught me not to say this is probably good news, because quite often in the past you've explained to me that it's not necessarily good news. But let's start with the biggest of those clubs. That's Sheffield Wednesday, and it seems like a rather exotic character has been chosen as the preferred bidder. Is this good or bad?
Well, every time I see his name in my head, I start going dun 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 dun. Because it's James Board at Sheffield Wednesday, and there are rumours that his consortium is the preferred bidder. Now, there has been a document which has been published at Companies House in the last 48 hours. Which deals with both Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield 3, which is the other company in administration which owns the stadium, to say that the administration is going to be extended. I wouldn't read anything into that. That is sort of fairly par for the course. But I think there's now a sense amongst some of our secret owls who we've regular contact with that the progress has slowed. And things are now starting to appear to be not quite as good as perhaps we initially hoped they would be. It does appear that the asking price of around about 30 million, you're going to need about 30 million pounds as a fee to ensure that Sheffield Wednesday are not subject to a 15-point deduction next season in League One. And let's be honest, they are going to be playing in League One. We can say that with 99.9% certainty. They've not won a game, I think, since the administrators have taken over. Having looked at some of the Sheffield newspapers, they are still under very, very substantial transfer restrictions, and also the administrators not going to commit to buying players, because they haven't got a budget to do so.
Sorry, could you just explain, Kieran, or remind us why a fee of less than £30 million would trigger a 15-point deduction?
Absolutely. Under EFL regulations, if a club exits administration, then they have to pay 100% of football debts,
right?
100% of what we might refer to as secured debts, i.e., a mortgage debt, and at least 25% of what is owed to unsecured creditors. So unsecured creditors could be the window cleaner, could be the people that supply the pies.
Yeah.
It also includes Dejon Chansiri.
Oh.
Now, we don't know exactly how much he is owed, but we think it's somewhere in the region of 60 million.
Okay,
so therefore, 25% of that is 15 million.
Right. Okay.
And I've said from day one, Dejan Chansiri is never going to be a hero of the good folk of Sheffield who support Wednesday, but he could make himself less of a villain. If we take a look at Mel Morris at Derby County, he was owed around about 150, 200 million at that club, and what he decided to do is he wasn't going to put in a claim to the regulator. So therefore, the new owners didn't have to find that 25%. Until we see the first administrator's report, we don't know whether Chansiri has made such a claim. I would be interested to find that out. It's gone a little bit quiet from the administrator, which makes you feel, initially I think they did a very good PR exercise. The local MP, Clive Betts, he's said that going back to who we believe to be the preferred bidder, James Board, who owns Dunfermline, I think he owns a stake in a Bulgarian club and another elsewhere in Europe. Clive Betts has sort of been hinting that he's been contacted by people who said that the prospective owner has been going around to people who say, got any spare cash? Do you want to join my consortium? Right. And that makes you feel slightly uneasy. Now, it has to be said, a preferred bidder isn't a finalised bidder. The EFL will be taking a fairly forensic eye on this. And going back to our questions pod earlier this week, one of the questions was, surely you take any bid if it preserves the club. Yeah. Well, my concern is always frying pan into fire scenarios under these circumstances. So I think a bit of goodwill, and there was a hell of a lot of goodwill, and rightly so, when the club was put into administration. And I'm certainly aware of those people who, I wouldn't say pressurised, but hinted to HMRC, why don't you go and stick a winding up order at Sheffield Wednesday and see what happens next? Those good vibes are starting to dissipate, and that is a concern. So yes, there is the administration continuing. Yes, there appears to be a preferred bidder, but progress is slow. The EFL are going to do their due diligence on whoever that preferred bidder is. Does this mean that Mike Ashley could come back into the equation in due course? Yes, it could. Mike Ashley might take the view that he'd rather pay less money, take the 15-point penalty, and put more money into the playing squad next season, because he thinks that will generate more than 15 points. So there's lots of complications in this.
If it is £30 million or possibly less than £30 million, if Mike Ashley bids lower and is accepted, then that's a hell of a difference between Chansiri wanting 75, 80 million just 3 months ago, isn't it?
Yes. Well, if you remember when we did the live show in Rotherham last year, we were asked to do a valuation at the time. I was sort of saying probably 40 to 45 would be reasonable. You might get 50 if you have some sort of earn-out clauses. If Wednesday make the Premier League in the next 5 years, would you throw an extra 5 million in? Yes, you probably would. But 30 million now, given the fact that you're buying a League One club, which needs a hell of a lot of infrastructure investment and a hell of a lot of investment on the pitch as well, is still a generous price. It's certainly not lowballing.
You didn't start a business just to keep the lights on. You're here to sell more today than yesterday. You're here to win. Lucky for you, Shopify built the best converting checkout on the planet. Like the just one tapping, ridiculously fast acting, sky-high sales stacking, champion of checkouts. That's the good stuff right there. So if your business is in it to win it, win with Shopify. Start your free trial today at shopify.com/win.
Let's do the 60-second savings challenge. Step 1, download Rocket Money. Step 2, link your accounts and see every subscription you're paying for. Tap one you don't use and cancel it. That's money back every month. Step 3. Create a financial goal. $50 every paycheck. Or let the app automatically move small amounts of cash when you can afford it. In a week, you'll forget you set it up. In a month, you'll see real dollars piling up. In a year, you'll be shocked at how much money you've saved. Bonus challenge. Upload an internet or phone bill and let Rocket Money try to lower it. You only pay if they find you savings. On average, Rocket Money members can save up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Users love the app with over 186,000 five-star ratings. Make saving money the resolution you actually keep. Start the 60-second savings challenge at rocketmoney.com/cancel. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. rocketmoney.com/cancel.
Now, our next new owner, Kieran, but I believe this is a confirmed new owner, might be good news for you vis-a-vis access to a club that is romantically close to your heart.
That's right. I did point this out to my good lady wife. For people that don't know the story, when I first met the Baroness, it was one of those sort of weird conversations. I said, do you like football? And she says, yeah, I'm okay with football. I said, do you want to come to a match with me? Okay. I was hoping for a romantic meal or a theatre or something. She said, oh, okay. Brighton are playing at Hartlepool next weekend. Do you fancy coming along? And to be fair, she did come along. Brighton lost. Robbie Savage played for us for his. In those, we had a loan deal with Robbie Savage, and I've met Robbie since, and he sort of quasi confirmed this. Is that he never had to go and play for more than an hour because he always wanted to be first into the showers at the end of a match because of his hair. So if you take a look at his loan spell at Brighton, he was always started the match and he was always taken off before the end in order to achieve his particular. So she saw Robbie Savage for I think 55 minutes. Brighton lost. I sulked all the way home. I didn't say a word. How on earth she ever agreed to ever see me again is one of the mysteries of modern life. But I think it's fair to say that relations between myself and the former owner of Hartlepool United, Raj Singh, were tepid, below zero, because I went on to BBC Tees Radio about 9 months ago. Hartlepool hadn't published their accounts; they were losing money. They had they dropped out of the EFL into the National League and so on. And I was mildly critical of the ownership regime, the lack of governance, the lack of communication. I think these things are important, and the owner took great exception to me valuing the club at £1. And I stand by that valuation today. But as a consequence, he banned the BBC. He banned Robbie Stelling, who is the local reporter, the son of Jeff Stelling, who, as we know, has always been a beacon of light about his love for Hartlepool United and so on. And yet there's been various legal letters pinging via the email system. And that has resolved itself. So American businessman Landon Smith, that's a proper American name, Landon, who is head of the Tailwind Real Estate Group, has bought Hartlepool United. And I think this is good news potentially for Hartlepool United. We don't know what his objectives are. He has set up a new company that's effectively a shell company, so we don't really know very much in terms of where it's getting its funding from. I feel duty bound to not to. I don't want to be anything negative towards Hartlepool United because it has got very, very fond memories for me. To say that Reynolds and McElhenney, or Rob Mack as he's now known, they at one stage were interested in buying Hartlepool before they finally ended up buying Wrexham, and there will always be there. But for the grace of God, go I. as far as Wrexham fans are concerned. But Raj Singh didn't want to sell to them at the time, presumably because they didn't match the asking price. So we've got another American owner in. What his aims and objectives are, I'm uncertain. The only thing that I'm slightly reserved about is that his background is real estate, property management, property development, whatever that's going to be. And therefore, what are his sort of medium to long term objectives for the club?
Do we know what the asking price was?
No,
Okay.
I've not managed to find that out yet. I will keep monitoring.
Yeah, cool. I remember Graham Souness telling me once that he knew the exact day that football was gone was the day they introduced shampoo holders in the training room at Liverpool. Little shampoo.
Shocking.
Terrible. But he said he knew that was it. That was the start of the slippery slope. It's like my dad with goalkeepers wearing gloves. That was it. In fact, my poor old dad, God rest his soul, we'd only just persuaded him. It took about 5 years that goalkeepers should be fine to wear gloves when outfield players started wearing them when it was cold. And we started again. So the Aldershot takeover is slightly weird because it's an internal one, Kieran.
Yes. Aldershot Town, who have been owned by a guy called Shahid Azim, has effectively transferred the ownership to Diane Wood. I think Diane has previously been a board director. But I think the good news from an Aldershot perspective is that the leaving owner has written off all of his loans. So that's always a concern of mine. Are there going to be potential legacy payments that the new owners have to deal with? So those loans have been written off. I don't know exactly how much they are. I was looking at the Aldershot Town accounts earlier today because that's, as we know, that's how I roll. I think they're likely to be a substantial six-figure sum. There's a very vague other creditors total of £800,000. They do have a sports council loan of £400,000 as well. Again, looking at my footballing past, I think Aldershot Town was the first time I walked out of a match.
Whoa!
This was League Cup 1985.
Yeah.
Remember the old days where you used to get two-legged second rounds?
Yeah.
Well, Brighton had won the first one 3-1, and we were two divisions above Aldershot Town, and that was in the day when we used to have Frank Worthington playing for Brighton. And I think it's fair to say, I don't think the squad had bothered to put in any sort of preparation for the return leg, and we went very quickly 3-0 down early into the second half. So I walked out, which I shouldn't do. But it was quite clear that the players, frankly, could not be bothered.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd catch an earlier train home.
I think Robbie Savage would have trouble getting in the shower first if Frank Worthington was still playing. I would imagine.
Yes.
I've got the Aldershot Town director down as being called Dean Wood, but
yeah.
But
it could be a Dean. Yes,
you know
Dean
what it is?
with an E.
We've done so many of those lovely Babble adverts that we now presume everything is a foreign name.
That's true.
Basically, we have said in the past, Kieran, be careful what you wish for when it comes to takeovers of the club. But surely, for fans of Hamilton Academical, this new management group has got to be an improvement, hasn't it, Kieran? Surely, what do we know about them?
What do we know about Morley Sports Management Group, who have been confirmed as the new owner of the Ackies? Well, okay, I have done my research. It's a company which has one employee.
Oh.
It's a company which had £100 worth of assets in 2024. That's slightly gone up from in 2025, but there doesn't appear to be a lot there. So there is a cause for concern. Ackies, they've had a points deduction this season, so therefore they're much lower in the third tier of Scottish football. They're not playing at their home ground. Attendances have dropped to 300 to 400. They were getting 3 or 4 years ago. They were getting 1,500 in the Championship. So the club was a mess. One hopes that bills will be paid, that wages will be paid. I think the threat of a players' strike ideally will have receded, but still a long way from being out of the woods.
Yeah.
Now, if anybody from Morley Sports Management wants to come on and say you're being unduly pessimistic, we've got funding, we've got approval from this, that, and the other. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, you say if anybody from Morley Sports Management, seems there's only one person available. I assume that's a Mr. and or Mrs. Ms. Morley. I don't know, but we'll happily wait and see. What would you talk about players going on strike? What would the players' wage be at a club like Hamilton, Kieran?
Will be, it's. I wouldn't say it's boot money, right, but it's not much more than boot money. The overall wage bill will be very low. If you get, you're probably 200-300 quid a week.
We've talked a lot, Kieran, recently, in theory, about transfer deals, loan deals with obligations to buy, and you've talked a lot, in theory, about how they could affect a player in particular. Now we have a real life, practical example in the Premier League, which is very bad news for a very promising young footballer.
Yes, I think people are fully aware that Aston Villa have had to be careful in terms of their transfer negotiations. They came very close in 2024 to a breach of Premier League rules. They are under a set of sanctions from UEFA for participation in this year's European competitions. And one of those sanctions is that on a cash basis, you've got to be cash positive in terms of the money that was spent in the June 2025 window. So in comes the player involved in all of this, Harvey Elliott, who I think anybody who saw him play for Liverpool thought he was a very exciting player. Wasn't getting regular appearances, but you look at that Liverpool midfield and it was, I think, tidy is the word that we would use in the world of football. So that was understandable. Aston Villa couldn't afford to pay a transfer fee in the summer of 2025 because of these UEFA sanctions. So therefore, we have to have some form of workaround. And the workaround was a loan deal for Harvey Elliott for season 25-26, but there was a £35 million obligation to buy clause embedded in the contract. And as soon as you see the word obligation, and there's a huge difference between obligation and option. Option means that Aston Villa have a decision to make. Obligation means that there is something called an obligating event. There is a trigger. And that trigger was that if he made 10 appearances for Aston Villa, they would have to pay that transfer fee at the end of 25-26. Now, for whatever reason, he didn't have a particularly great start. A lot of competition for places. Unai Emery clearly has decided that he wants him as a squad player, but nothing more than that. And it now transpires that Emery has subsequently said, if he plays for 10 times, or not, we found out that, not for Emery, if he plays 10 times for Aston Villa, that is the trigger event in the £35 million deal. And Villa have decided we'd rather spend our budget elsewhere. Does that mean he goes back to Liverpool? Well, it would also appear, and again, I'm picking up here from stories in the press. I've not seen anything. I've not been given access to any contracts, and if I did, I wouldn't be able to say anything anyway.
Of course,
we all know that. It also transpires that there is a £5 million break clause. So if Villa, I think, send him back, they have to pay Liverpool £5 million for the privilege. So where exactly does this leave the young man involved? At the start of the season, I think many. Let's look at it from a World Cup perspective. Harvey Elliott was one of those players. You thought, well, he's a few decent games. He could find himself in the England squad in the summer of 2026. So I think that opportunity, I think we would have to agree, has probably been lost. But he's now stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
If he goes back to Liverpool, looks like Villa will have to pay a break clause. Liverpool clearly don't want him anyway. If he stays on at Villa, Emery's saying he's not going to get any game time. The only possibility is that there could be some workaround in which he goes to another club for the second half of the season. But is that part of the contractual opportunities? We don't know.
I mean, he's one of those players before this season started where I'm sure just about the fans of every WhatsApp group in the Premier League and probably some in the Championship were saying we'll have Harvey Elliott as our lone player. I mean, he's a fantastic player, and you have to feel for him. A lot of people asking me, Kieran, I'm not entirely sure the answer is: does 10 appearances mean from this kickoff, or
no, just 10 appearances? I believe it's just 10 appearances. 10 appearances, full stop. Yeah.
So, and who's paying his wages not to play football? We don't know. We don't know that deal. Do we?
His salary. He is a contract of employment with Liverpool Football Club,
right?
And Aston Villa will be paying a monthly amount to Liverpool Football Club to cover X percent of his wages. Now, whether that's 100% or whether that's 80%, I don't know. But he is an employee of Liverpool Football Club.
Wow, my heart goes out to him, as it must be terribly demoralising. He's only a kid. Let's say. I mean, and I mean, this next story, Kieran, about England. I can't imagine if we'd started this podcast in 1970. I can't imagine any, apart from when England didn't qualify for World Cups.
Yes.
I can't imagine any situation whereby we'd be discussing this as a story.
Yes, as people may be aware, under the rules of the 2026 World Cup, 8% of tickets for each match are allocated to the two teams participating, to the fans of the two teams participating. England football fans, reputation has been erratic, but these days I think England football fans are they've dealt with some of the problem issues, and England football fans always travel in huge numbers. Yeah. It's one of the things which it's the same with Scotland when they get to a competition and so on. So I think the England supporters group have a sort of a loyalty scheme, and that's right and proper. Those boys and girls that have been to Albania and Finland on a Wednesday night, they deserve priority. They deserve their loyalty to be acknowledged. But as we're also fully aware, the ticket prices for the World Cup in summer of 2026 are far greater than anticipated. Gianni Infantino went on record, I think it was last week, and said there wouldn't be football in 150 different countries if we didn't have these prices. And to which my reply is, that is utter nonsense, Gianni.
Yeah.
I'm fully aware of the amount of money that FIFA make through the TV deal. I'm fully aware of how much money FIFA were making with the Electronic Arts, the computer games company, with the deal that you, Gianni, ripped up.
Yeah.
So to say that these ticket prices are justified as a means of subsidising football in the Cook Islands and Bhutan, I'm afraid is a complete misrepresentation. It's a nonsense. But the prices are very, very high, to such an extent that the England fans who have got the points have said, thanks, but no thanks. We can't afford it. We're not going to take up our ticket options, either through a point of principle or the fact that it's now been too expensive. And I think that's a huge shame, because you and I, we're both old enough to remember World Cups. My first one was 1970, and football fans make football.
Yeah, of course.
Football tourists don't, and there is a difference. And I'm not being snarky about those people who just want to go there, because I've gone to World Cups. I think I'm a football fan, but officially I'm a football tourist. I went to see Portugal play North Korea. I've seen Uruguay versus Sweden, at various at South Africa and Germany and other World Cups and other Euros and so on. I don't care who I go to see, but I know enough about my football, I think, to know both teams, and I always do my research anyway. So I think that this is a shame. I've got to say that I'm hugely disappointed in the Football Association, because have there been any representations made about these ticket prices?
Yeah.
Have they stood up for England football fans? Have they done anything whatsoever? We've seen a deafening silence from the Football Association, and it's it says it's for all. Well, it's clearly not for the fans.
I mean, one of the problems is, and I say this without any disrespect to my many friends and relations in America. It's a country we all have very fond memories of. If the World Cup was only in Canada and Mexico, I think most football fans would be happier, to be perfectly honest. And part of the reason I say that is because Trump and Infantino have basically like those crime dramas when they give each other an alibi. Because Infantino could say, well, yeah, we are struggling with tickets, but look at the geopolitical situation in America. People are worried about travelling to America at the moment. It's a volatile country. And Trump could say, well, look at the FIFA, they're charging too much for tickets. So yeah, the World Cup will turn out to be a great. The grounds will be full.
Yeah.
They'll be very hot, possibly too hot. Again, we know the poor little sniffer dogs will have to have little slippers on because it was so hot like it was, but it will be a success. Whatever happens, you could have totally empty stadiums and FIFA will still sell it as an absolute success, and we'll still watch it. But I can't remember a World Cup where normally, this time of year when Christmas is over, I get really miserable. But World Cup years, Euro years, you go, it's all right, I'll just get through to June, get the World Cup wall chart on. That's almost like a Christmas decoration this year. I can't remember a World Cup year that I'm less excited about, to be perfectly honest. Talking about my poor old dad and confused about footballers wearing gloves. The idea that the group that owns an English football club have pulled out of the Indian Super League would take some explaining to him.
Yes, this is the City Football Group, most notably known for the ownership of Manchester City, but also New York City, Melbourne City, and Mumbai City. We do now have our secret Indian football source, who I've been in with significant correspondence with, and I think it's fair to say that Indian football is shambolic from a governance and leadership perspective. We have the All India Football Federation, which was broadly similar to the FA. There is the Indian Super League. The Indian Super League hasn't taken place. I think it was supposed to start in July, and that didn't get going because they couldn't agree in terms of funding. The clubs in the Indian Super League have asked the All India Football Federation to guarantee the funding for this year's tournament. That has not been forthcoming. I think they're looking for 50 million crore. And I think a crore is 1 million rupees.
Right.
So that works out as around about £4 million per club, which isn't a lot of money. If you think what we've got footballers, the average wage for Premier League footballers, 4 million. So the clubs were looking from the FA, and the Football Federation said no, we're not prepared to provide those guarantees. So as a result of that, the City Football Group have said we're not prepared to go along with this. We think this is a poorly run competition, and they've just said we're walking away, which is a shame. India is a potential growth market. I think it has been noted. Is it 5 of the 6 most populated countries in the world are not participating in the World Cup?
Yeah,
which is a bit of an indictment of how football is run in some countries, and clearly India is going to be one of those. So that's where we are. It's a mess. Indian sport is absolutely brilliant. Anybody that watches IPL knows just how passionate Indian sports fans are. And yes, many of them will support Premier League clubs, but there's still a lot of domestic interest as well. And it's a huge country.
Yeah. Does the City Football Group still got their contacts with Mumbai though? Have they? So it's just have they pulled it? Is that?
Well, they pulled the. Looks like they pulled the club out of the competition.
So they've pulled, but they haven't pulled out of the club. They've just pulled the club out of that.
Yeah, but
competition.
what the implications for that are
sure.
is open to question.
Yeah.
The holidays are expensive. You're paying for gifts, travel, decorations, food, and before you know it, you've blown way past what you were planning to spend. Don't start the new year off with bad money vibes. Download Rocket Money to stay on top of your finances. The app pulls your income, expenses, and upcoming charges into one place, so you can get the clearest picture of your money. It shows how much to set aside for bills and how much is safe to spend for the month, so you can spend with confidence. No guesswork needed. Get alerts before bills hit, track budgets, and see every subscription you're paying for. Rocket Money also finds extra ways to save you money by canceling subscriptions you're not using and negotiating lower bills for you. On average, Rocket Money users can save up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Start the year off right by taking control of your finances. Go to rocketmoney.com/cancel to get started. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. rocketmoney.com/cancel.
I didn't realize I was wasting $415 a month until I downloaded Rocket Money. I thought I had my finances under control until the app laid out all my spending and categorized it for me. Takeout, shopping, and unused subscriptions were quietly draining my account. And as a result, my savings took a backseat. But Rocket Money doesn't just tell you what you're wasting money on. It takes action to save you money. First, the app looks at your income and monthly expenses and calculates how much you can safely spend each day to stay under budget. Rocket Money also finds and cancels unwanted subscriptions for you and even negotiates better rates on your bills, so you have more money in your pocket. On average, Rocket Money members can save up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Users love the app with over 186,000 five-star ratings. It's time to simplify your finances and take control of your money. Go to rocketmoney.com/cancel to get started. That's rocketmoney.com/cancel. rocketmoney.com/cancel.
Normally, Kieran, when we talk about DAZN on here, it's trying not to imply that their relationship with FIFA is anything other than completely above board. But this time, producer Guy will be happy. He'll have sat up with his ears twitching, drinking his Bovril out of his gold cup. But this time, it's nothing to do with FIFA this time. Nothing to do with FIFA, this does that. And when I say, I realised I said that in a voice that implies it's entirely to do with FIFA, but it literally nothing to do with FIFA.
No, it's nothing to do with FIFA. A couple of years ago, DAZN, who are a broadcaster, as we know, they signed I think it was quite a long-term deal with the Belgian Pro League for €84 million a year. And again, let's contextualise that. €84 million is about 75 million quid. The side that finishes bottom of the Premier League this season will get 115 to 120 million quid. So it's not a particularly lucrative deal, but I think it's representative of the fact that Belgium, A, is a smaller country, and B, it doesn't have an international audience as far as being able to sell the rights on a global scale. And DAZN has now tried to pull out of that deal. And the reason for that, it said that the Belgian Pro League had an obligation to show those matches domestically. So it had sold the rights to DAZN, and then it was also supposed to be, I believe, to be selling the rights to the domestic channels in Belgium via DAZN. That didn't take place. DAZN, therefore, was only able to broadcast matches via its app. And on the back of that, DAZN said, well, we're not making any money, we're walking away. So the Belgian Pro League took DAZN to court, and the court decision is that DAZN has to pay 1/12 of 84 million, which is around about €7 million a month, and they have to sort out this decision. But it does show, I think, on a broader scale, that the value of TV rights, A, is certainly peaked, and B, it is going to be concentrated in a few leagues and fewer leagues. across Europe, which I think is a broader concern for football going forwards. The increased polarisation of broadcast revenue into the hands of fewer and fewer people at the top of sort of the super clubs is going to accelerate as we go through the remainder of this decade.
Yeah. Our penultimate story, Kieran, does involve FIFA. It also involves John Textor, which is quite a few of our stories. Last year, mainly it was UEFA and John Textor. Now it's FIFA, so he's been promoted.
Yeah, and we give certain aspects of FIFA a hard time. I think when it comes to the pricing of tickets and some of the other weird and wonderful things they've done in respect of the World Cup. But here I'm going to give FIFA praise. One of the big concerns for anybody that does any form of financial analysis of an industry is what happens when people don't pay. And FIFA have always upheld the transfer market. And rightly so, because if clubs fail to pay transfer fees, this has a huge ripple knock-on effect. And I've always worried that when I look at the transfer payables, you've got clubs in the Premier League that owe £500 million in unpaid transfer fees. And the receiving club is dependent upon those monies. It depends to keep the lights on, to pay the wages, to put the coach, to put the fuel in the coach to get to the next away match, and so on. So therefore, that fluidity of cash from one club to another has to be upheld. And FIFA have normally been pretty good at threatening sanctions for those clubs that don't do it. Or step forward, John Textor's Botafogo. They've been given a 3-window transfer ban, which kicked in on the 1st of January 2026, because they signed Thiago Almada from Atlanta United for $21 million. Now, I've not seen the exact division of the deal, but 3 payments is quite common. So it looks as if they will have paid the first as when the player joins, and then you play on annual instalments. That first instalment wasn't paid. Atlanta have complained to FIFA. FIFA have upheld that claim, and therefore Botafogo will not be able to sign players until January 2028, which seems a long way away.
Yeah, it does, but at our age, that'll fly by, don't worry. We like, where possible, Kieran, to end with a good news story, a positive story on our pods, and I'm delighted to say that this good news story involves my football club.
Yes, just like News at 10 and the skateboarding otter, which, as Trevor McDonald would go, and now for something. And you go, well, thanks, Trevor, after 28 minutes of misery, and you've put a smile on my face at the end of all this. So our skateboarding otter for the day is in respect to Crystal Palace, and here is my cap, and Kieran will confirm I've just doffed it.
You have, yes.
In the general direction of Steve Parish and Crystal Palace. You're playing Macclesfield, not Macclesfield Town. They're playing Macclesfield in the FA Cup, and they've said that under normal rules, you split the gate receipts. You take away the costs of hosting the game. The FA takes 10%, which goes into the broader pool, and then the 2 clubs split the 90% of the money. What Crystal Palace have said to Macclesfield, look, as far as the tickets that you sell are concerned, you can keep all of the money. We're not going to ask for our share. I think that's just a thoroughly decent thing to do.
Yeah, do you know what? It's just, we've talked about this effect before. I emailed Steve. That's as close as I've got his email address via his PA. He's obviously never going to give me his phone number, but I emailed Steve to say what a lovely gesture, and he sent me a very lovely. It's just a decent thing to do for a club that are having some terribly emotional, difficult times at the moment. But just in terms of how it makes the fans feel, we've discussed this before. How sometimes football finance can put a spring in the step, which is not something you buy. But apparently Palace are having a blip at the moment. All the WhatsApp groups and tweets are just people forgetting that we've got a massive amount of points compared to normal this time of the season. We've FA Cup winners, for the love of God, but it's all going terribly pear-shaped apparently. But which is ludicrous. But it does put a little spring in your step when you know that your club does. And in the scheme of things, it's not a massive amount of money that we're giving away. And there are people that say, well, if only Steve Parish was that keen to redistribute Premier League money on a general day-to-day, but none of that matters.
No.
None of that matters. What Palace have done is a thoroughly decent thing. And as a fan, it makes you feel a little bit better about yourself and about your club, because that's what you want your club to do. And the fact is, we should reflect that on a day-to-day basis, most clubs are doing stuff like that, on the quiet and helping people out at all levels of football. So it's nice to end our first news pod of the year on a positive note, until we discover that in between us recording this and the show going out, the Man City 115 charges, in which case you have to turn the car around on the motorway from Manchester, and I have to leave the hospital.
I think I could have a very interesting Wednesday night at the Etihad. You know where I'm going.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. If you're halfway through the Man City Brighton game and the tannoy, is there an accountant in the house? Is there a football finance expert anywhere in the crowd? We need someone. Some quick advice. Don't forget, you can now join our Price of Football Club, where you'll get ad-free listening, access to our full back catalogue, bonus episodes, Zoom quiz invites, and much, much more. Just go to priceoffootball.com and click on Join the Club to sign up today. If you have a question you'd like answered on the show, email us at questions@priceoffootball.com. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter and you can find us on YouTube. And if you'd like to buy our book, you can find details on that same website, priceoffootball.com. We'll be back on Tuesday on the other side of the FA Cup with our questions pod. In the meantime, I shall hand you over to Mr. Kieran Maguire for his customary farewell.
Well, thank you, as always, for all those people that get in contact through a variety of means. It is quite humbling to get some of the things which you write to us, and we are genuinely touched. There's a variety of ways that you can support the show. Look, it's January, times are tight. We all realise many of us got paid a week early at Christmas, and I'm looking at the bank balance now, going, how many days is it until the 29th of January? So supporting the Price of Football through the club membership scheme is fantastic. But there's another way you can support us, and it will take 30 seconds of your time. All you need to do is to pop on to Spotify or your podcast app or wherever it happens to be, and just give us a little review. And for reasons which we do not understand, Kevin and I are bears of brain which does consist of fluff and not thinking matter. But according to producer Guy, it makes a difference to the algorithm. So it doesn't matter what you write. You could even say you would rather have the show presented by Trevor McDonald and Ronald McDonald. And I've got no idea how that's going to go. And finally, is how it will finish.
He was quite the potty mouth, Sir Trevor.
Oh, was he?
He was.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
he's got off in my estimation even further.
I did an ill-fated ITV attempt to copy Have I Got News For You with, called Newsnight with a K. And he was... He was unfortunately, if we could have broadcast half of the stuff he said, he was great. And also one of the most, if you think I'm prone to dropping the occasional name, fuck me, he'd met everybody. He's really met everybody. And most of his stories ended up somewhere else, and then I came back from Amsterdam. It was delightful. Absolutely delightful.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Ronald, less so. I don't know. I think Ronald would have to ask the questions in that.
Yes.
So Trevor would have to be the Kieran of this. So Ronald would be the Kevin in this occasion. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Price of Football. The Price of Football.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now, you call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.